The KUDZUKIAN Network presents Riffin on Jazz with your host, Howard Robertson and Malvin Massey.
Sonny Rollins.
You got to improve, man. You got Coltrane and Ornette Coleman and these boys coming up. You better get your stuff together.
Mr. Miles Davis.
White people are funny. In America, they thought that I just woke up one morning and had the blues and started playing the trumpet. But it don't go like that, and you can't explain that to them.
Miles was able to make something that was wrong into something that was right.
Now they know. I'm not an accident.
Riffin on Jazz.
Hello and welcome to Riffin on Jazz. I'm Howard Robertson.
And I'm Malvin Massey.
And you know, as always, Riffin on Jazz is your weekly visit with friends talking about the music that we love.
It is that classic African-American art form called jazz.
Once again, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Good to see you.
Appreciate you. Thank you for being here.
I came back.
Right on.
Even though, as I recall, you talked mighty bad to me last time.
Y'all the ones picking on me all the time.
Anyway. Listen, we're going to get right into it. Today, we are doing jazz themes from the big screen, and we're going to start out with something close to home for us anyway. It's called the Memphis Stomp.
What do you say, man?
I love that, man.
The Memphis Stomp.
I love that. Does that feel like Memphis or not?
It does. It does. And, you know, when they were cutting that film here in Memphis, everybody was following them around to see where they were going to be tomorrow. And all the tracks that go along with it, you can tell, you know a spot in Memphis when you hear it.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about jazz themes from the big screen. And I mean, the whole purpose of music on soundtracks and in movies is to establish character, ambiance, and give people a feel for what they're seeing visually. And you know, music does that better than anything else, and jazz is the best music to establish that with.
And it seems like it's used more than any other type of music, except maybe symphony, in all the movies that you see.
I would say so. I would say so. Just like that track is quintessentially Memphis.
Yeah,
I mean, you can feel that. You can feel the rhythm of that and the earthiness of that track.
And that came from Dave Grusin, who we know about Dave Grusin, Grusin Rosen Productions, GRP, producer, keyboardist.
Everybody.
Dave Grusin's bad man. He's a cowboy from Wyoming, but he got that. He put the feel of Memphis.
Got a little funk in him.
Got that little Memphis in it.
So now, who have we got coming up?
Okay, this one is Moon River. It's from Breakfast to Tiffany.
1961, baby.
Yeah, and this
I was
one,
like 9.
Well, Monica Mancini, the daughter of Henry Mancini, who was my Facebook friend, by the way. She did a CD of her dad's music, and she pulled in everybody she could. She got Joey D. She's got Plas Johnson. She got Take 6 and Stevie Wonder doing Moon River.
Doing Moon River?
It's gorgeous.
Right here?
Yeah.
Right now?
That's exactly
RIFFIN.
right.
That was a gorgeous cut, man.
Yeah.
I'd never heard that before.
Moon River from Monica Mancini's Ultimate Mancini CD. Stevie Wonder, Take 6. Man.
Take 6, beautiful voices, complex harmonies. Now, Stevie Wonder, for my money, absolutely one of the greatest harmonica players, easily identifiable. You know it's Stevie You don't think it's Blind Mellow Lemon or anybody like
else.
that. You know when you hear Stevie playing harmonica.
Yeah, and Stevie's so covered. All his music is being covered. It's great to hear him filling in, covering on another track, on somebody else's track. He did things Fragile the other day. I was listening to it.
Really?
Gosh, man, it's
Really?
gorgeous. We're going to bring that in sometime.
That's awesome.
Music from
That is
documentaries.
awesome. So who we got coming up, man?
Okay, Stacey Kent. Now, she was at the GPAC a couple of years ago with her husband, Jim Tomlinson, the saxophone player. But she's doing this classic track from Guys and Dolls, If I Were a Bell. You remember that one from Miles.
If I Were a Bell, I remember it from Miles. I think it was 1957, if I'm not mistaken. And it also had the distinction of being absolutely the final piece of music that the Huxtables danced off of the set on. It was the last piece of music played on The Cosby Show.
If I Were a Bell.
Yes.
Now that's really appropriate because Bill Cosby has been a champion of jazz forever.
Yes, he has. I mean, you know, they did so much in that show. They championed jazz. They championed art.
Exactly.
You notice, and we know artists who had work in the Huxtable home where it was displayed. So, they did a lot for the arts when they were on. And so we're going to get right into If I Were a Bell, Stacey Kent.
Ask me how do I feel, little me with my quiet upbringing. Well, sir, all I can say is if I were a bell, I'd be ringing from the moment we kissed tonight. That's the way I've just gotta behave. Boy, if I were a lamp, I'd light, and if I were a banner, I'd wave. Ask me how do I feel now that we're cozy and clinging. Well, sir, all I can say is if I were a gate, I'd be swinging. And if I were a watch, I'd start popping my spring. And if I were a bell, I'd go ding dong, ding dong, ding. Chemistry lesson I'm learning. Well, sir, all I can say is if I were a bridge, I'd be burning. Yes, I knew my morale would crack from the wonderful way that you looked. Boy, if I were a duck, I'd quack, and if I were a goose, I'd be cooked. Ask me how do I feel now that we're fondly caressing. Boy, if I were a salad, I'd surely be splashing my dressing. Ask me how to describe this whole beautiful thing. And if I were a bell, I'd go ding dong, ding dong, ding. go ding dong, ding dong, ding.
Stacey King, If I Were a Girl.
That's nice.
I always liked that song. Yeah, I love that movie. Anyway, Guys and Dolls. And, you know, it was Broadway played first. Sinatra, Marlon Brando trying to sing.
Mm-hmm.
But
trying to sing.
But that track, that was written by Johnny Mercer.
But for most of us who are even familiar with the music, we are not familiar that it had lyrics.
Yeah.
Because the first time we heard it, it didn't.
No, it had. In
Guys and Dolls, it had. They sang it.
Yeah,
okay.
they sang it in Guys and Dolls.
Okay.
And you know, like I said, there was Sinatra and them in there, but Marlon Brando trying to sing in the song, but Gene Simmons did the vocal on that. But Stacey did a good arrangement of that. And like you said, Miles did it in '57. Then he did it again in the '70s on his Muted Miles CD.
Okay. So now that you have coerced me into imbibing alcohol, what are we drinking?
Rex Goliath?
Yes.
Larry turned around so I wouldn't say it had that big chicken on it.
With a big chicken on the bottle. Where did he get this stuff from?
It says it comes from California.
It's a red blend from California, I see. So we lift libations to life, love, and jazz. And listen, make sure you check us out. Riffin on Jazz on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, or your favorite podcast provider. Don't forget, you can also access all the latest episodes of Riffin by texting RIFF, Riff, to 72,000. We're on the KUDZUKIAN Network, and we'll be right back, with more Riffin on Jazz after this.
Putting the riff in yo jazz. It's Riffin on Jazz.
We're riffing on jazz.
Branford. I'm your host, Cynthia Daniels.
And I'm your co-host, Williams Brack.
So we're going to be interviewing business owners about their journey. What made them leave their 9-to-5 and just go out and create their own brand?
I think sometimes we overplan things and that can kind of cause a delay or setback. But I would definitely say dive in, get your name started, get your website up, get your business cards.
Branford.
Sponsored by Epicenter, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Google Play, and many of your podcast providers.
Branford.
KUDZUKIAN.
Riffin is what we do. We're riffin' on jazz.
Welcome back to Riffin' on Jazz. We're riffing on jazz themes from the big screen, talking about movie music and movie soundtracks as it relates to jazz. And we hope that we can not only introduce you to some new music that you might not be familiar with, but also to introduce you to some fabulous movies
that you might want to go see.
And it's all too easy to access them now.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is just pull them down. Speaking of movies, when we were growing up, and for you guys know, we've talked about this before, me and Malvin Massey go back well over 50 years to when we were like 11. And one of the big things that we loved back then was James Bond, 007. Then it was Sean Connery, and to us, it'll always be Sean Connery. Okay?
But that was the mood. He dressed coolest, he acted the coolest, he had all the ladies. Bad man.
That's right. Yeah. He had the best Mac going. Smooth. He was smooth. But so the next tune comes from a James Bond movie called Thunderball.
So there have been a lot of covers of the James Bond movies, the music written by John Barry.
Goldfinger and all of that. Yeah,
John Barry wrote all of that. But this one, it doesn't get covered that much. It was Tom Jones that sang it in the original.
Okay.
It doesn't get covered that much. But this is the Cincinnati Conservatory of Music, call themselves the CCM.
Okay.
And they did Thunderball. It's one of my favorite movies, but also the way they did this. Listen to the horns in here, the trombones, the depth of sound. These kids in Cincinnati can play.
Check it out. you see what we're talking about. You could feel, you could hear what we're talking about in terms of how music in a movie sets the mood, sets the tone, establishes the ambience and all of that.
Yeah.
And Thunderball was that kind of movie.
It was a good movie.
Yeah.
And that track, John Barry wrote all that James Bond music in those days, and every one of those tracks is memorable.
Right.
That's what I remember about it.
Right. So, we're riffing on jazz themes from the big screen, and this one comes from a movie called A Dream is a Wish That the Heart Makes.
The movie is Cinderella.
Oh, get me straight.
A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes is the track. And it's so pretty. This Rob Mounsey Jazz Orchestra. These guys got together and they decided to do Jazz Loves Disney. And they took all these Disney songs, which already had a basis in jazz, and it just fleshed them out.
Something as old as Cinderella. You know how old? 1950. That's when they did Cinderella. Walt Disney Film did Cinderella, and back with us, when we saw it, it was at the Malco Theater in downtown Memphis, Tennessee on Beale Street, and we had to watch it upstairs in the balcony, Jack, because we were not allowed downstairs with the white people.
We even had to go in the side door.
Absolutely.
And upstairs.
Absolutely. And our own concession stand and the whole nine.
Check it out.
Nice.
Yeah. It's from Disney's film. These guys put together these Jazz Loves Disney CDs. They did one, and now they've got a part 2 out too. And they took all these lovely Disney tunes and they jazzed them up. And they got these different artists. Even Bebel Gilberto, Jean Gilberto's daughter from Girl from Ipanema. She's singing Beauty and the Beast on one of these CDs. And that one, that's tune written by Mac David, Al Hoffman, Jerry Livingston.
Nice. We're riffing on jazz themes from the big screen.
Yeah, and we want to make sure that you check us out on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, Stitchers, and TuneIn, or your favorite podcast provider. And don't forget, you can also get access to our latest episodes by texting RIFF to 72000. That's texting RIFF to 72000.
We are riffing on jazz on the KUDZUKIAN network, and we will be back with more of this stuff right after this.
Riffin' on Jazz.
Best in Blue.
I'm DC.
I'm Leah.
Right here on the Best in Blue.
I'm so happy to be here on this new season.
On this season, we're going to talk a little bit about domestic violence,
traffic,
internet safety.
We're going to have our very own discussions and dialogue with our director, Rollins. Text BNB to 72,000.
Right here on the Best in Blue.
Best in Blue.
On the KUDZUKIAN network.
Grind Fed.
I'm your host, Cynthia Daniels.
And I'm your co-host, Williams Brack.
So we're going to be interviewing business owners about their journey. What made them leave their 9-to-5 and just go out and create their own brand?
I think sometimes we overplan things and that can kind of cause a delay or setback. But I would definitely say dive in, get your name started, get your website up, get your business cards.
Grind Fed.
Sponsored by Epicenter, powered by the KUDZUKIAN network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Google Play, and many of your podcast providers.
Grind Fed.
KUDZUKIAN.
Artivism.
Artivism features conversations with artists, creatives, and citizens working at the intersection of art and social activism. And I'm Linda Steele, your host. I'm a grant maker, change maker, social venture capitalist, and I invest in individuals and projects that use the arts as a vehicle for social change.
Artivism on the KUDZUKIAN network.
KUDZUKIAN.
And finally, Dr. Kay Streeter.
Hello.
How are you, Doc?
I am doing fantastic. How are you?
Great. Psychologist and a boxing matchmaker.
She's a streeter fighter. Okay.
Of the famous Streeter, and Streeter.
Hey, there you go. She's going to bring it to us straight from the streeter.
Let's talk about this segment, Gumball.
Now is not the time to hate or criticize. Now is the time to disinfect and deodorize. Like the incense, it's going to be funky.
On the KUDZUKIAN network.
KUDZUKIAN.
It's Eye Conversation.
Elliot Perry, otherwise known as Socks.
Man, thank you. How you guys doing?
Mr. Earl the Pearl Monroe.
Hey, thank you. Nice to be with you guys.
Glad to have Mr. Allen Houston.
Trying to stay warm up here in New York.
I hear you. Personality extraordinaire, Mr. Scoop Jackson.
I appreciate the encore.
Mr. Michael Ray Richardson.
What's up, man? Glad to be here, brother.
A 3-time NBA All-Star, the one, the only, Detlef Shrimp.
Howard and Larry, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be on the show.
Eye Conversation. The KUDZUKIAN network.
KUDZUKIAN.
You're listening to Riffin' on Jazz.
Welcome back to Riffin'. We're riffing on jazz themes from the big screen. One thing that we said early on, Malvin, that we were not just going to introduce our audience, some of our audience, those who don't have the vintage that we have. We're going to introduce them to, and this was a great idea, by the way, your concept, great show. So we're going to introduce them not just to the music, but also to the movies. Now, for you young folk out there who have never seen it, we want you to go and download or pull it down or whatever it is you got to do, a movie from 1972 called Lady Sings the Blues. Classic movie. It's about Billie Holiday. It stars Diana Ross. It stars Billy D. Williams, and it stars Richard Pryor and others. It is about the tumultuous life of Lady Day. Yes, Billie Holiday. And so check this song out. Now, this is classic Billie Holiday song. It's God Bless the Child. But as I told Malvin, the biggest difference between what you are about to hear with Diana Ross doing it and what you may be familiar with Lady Day, Billie Holiday doing it is you can understand every lyric that Diana Ross sings. It's a beautiful song. It is a classic and a standard. From Lady Sings the Blues, we're talking about God Bless the Child.
Them that's got shall get, them that's not shall lose. So the Bible says, and it still is news. Mama may have, Papa may have, but God bless the child that's got his own, that's got his own. Yeah, the strong gets more, while the weak ones fade. Empty pockets don't ever make the grave. Mama may have, Papa may have, but God bless the child that's got his own, that's got his own. Crust of bread and such. You can help yourself, but don't take too much. Mama may have, Papa may have, but God bless the child that's got his own, that's got his own.
God bless the child. God is on.
Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, that string arrangement.
Yeah, that was gorgeous. That was really cool. That was from the movie, like Howard said, Lady Sings the Blues. Featured Rich Pryor, Billy D. Williams, Diana Ross. It was produced by Berry Gordy, by the way.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
And see, another reason to check these movies out is that some of these young people have heard about Billie Holiday all their lives and all of that, but if they had an interest, they don't know any more about it than what they were able to read. But when you watch a movie, you can really, really get a feel for the character of the person, and they do a great job on that, because she had a very, very colorful but very, very challenging life. It was said about that movie that they gave Billie Holiday a light. They gave her a better feeling about herself than anybody had before, because of the way that everybody pictured Billie from the news, from all the things that had happened. But they gave it a new light. They gave it an idea that, hey, Billie was a lady. She was a human being, and she went through a lot of changes. Great singer, but And Billie Holiday was from an early age, she was a woman. All woman. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she and her mom were turning tricks when she was like 13 years old or something like that. Yeah. Together.
Diana's done a good job.
Check the movie out. Yeah, she did. Yeah. She did. So we got Mo Better.
Yeah. Spike Lee coming into the picture.
From the movie Mo Better Blues. This is a song that a lot of people have heard, and they are familiar with the tune, but they didn't know where it came from or whatever. So it comes from the movie Mo Better Blues. Check this out. This is Branford Marsalis.
Vogliono vederti.
Mo Better.
You remember that? Everybody was walking around humming that and whistling that too.
Yes. 1990 drama film starring Denzel Washington, Wesley Snipes, written, directed, acted by Spike Lee. You know, Spike got to be in all this stuff.
Yeah. But the killer part about that, though, is the music director for the film was his dad.
Yes.
Yeah, William James Edward Bill Lee III.
And we've got to mention that. In addition to Branford Marsalis on sax, that was Terrence Blanchard playing trumpet.
Although in the movie it was Denzel playing the trumpet, but you know.
Yeah.
He wasn't really playing.
Denzel playing Bleak.
Get off, Bleak.
Bleak Gilliam. Great movie. Had the hilarious Robin Harris in it too.
You can tell ugly woman anything, can't you? Hey, I'm going to the moon. I'll be back in a couple of days. Well, you be careful.
The funniest guys on the planet.
That was a good movie.
So with that, we're coming to a close, and we're gonna close out with a song from the movie Shaft, and it's
near and dear to our heart. We started with the Firm, and we'll close out with the Shaft.
Closing out with Shaft. This is a tune called Cafe Reggio. It features a guy that is a friend of ours. His name is Michael Tolles. This is not Wes Montgomery that you're about to hear. And one thing I want to point out to everybody before you hear him, what you are listening to is, what you're going to hear is a 17-year-old guy.
Michael was, he was a prodigy,
17.
Man.
Listen, if we were cheese, they might call us aged. If we were cars, they might call us classic. If we were clothes, they might call us vintage. But we call ourselves blessed and highly favored to share each week with you. I'm Howard Robertson.
I'm Malvin Massey.
And we're thanking you for taking the time to be with us, and look forward to being with you next week for more Riffin' on Jazz. Y'all be good.
Riffin' on Jazz. Executive produced by KUDZUKIAN. Co-host by Howard Robertson and Malvin Massey Jr. Music curation by Howard and Malvin. And recorded at KUDZUKIAN Studios. Riffin' on Jazz. Part of the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Riffin' on Jazz.
Bye.